Doing a research study? Who's in? Who's not in? This is the sample criteria dilemma. Sample criteria, also known as qualifiers, are specific traits that filter who's accepted into your study sample to best represent the specific population of interest. You can apply some of the learning from a basic marketing course on how to define a target market. Just as you did to define a target, we use some of the same types of traits to define a research sample, with some adjustments. We use geographic, demographic, behavioral, and psychographic factors. Geographic criteria: where the sample lives. Sure doesn't seem complex for, let's say, a street interview, but one thing to learn about sample criteria: take your time, sweat the detail. Do you intend to focus your sample on just full-time GTA residents? If you stop to interview pedestrians outside the Eaton Center, not all those folks will meet your criteria. You must ask up front. Before asking your survey questions, ask your qualifier question and screen out folks who are out of towners or tourists. If you don't do this, you'll sully your results with non representative data. Demographic traits are ones you may have heard of in pop culture, such as the Mad Men TV show. You may have heard phrases such as that coveted full-time employed 25 to 44-year-old female earning 50,000 plus a year. Behavioral traits are often the most practical of all. Working for a coffee company and trying to reach full-time residents of Ontario, 25 to 34 years old with personal income over $50,000 a year? Fine, but do they buy coffee? That's pretty relevant, isn't it? Brands bought or ever tried, amount of product consumed, channels shopped at, preferred method of payment, typical container size bought. Those are all behavioral traits. Now, put that all together, and you have full-time residents of Ontario, geographic, who are full-time employed, 25 to 34 years old, with a personal income over $50,000 a year, demographic, who have bought coffee in the past 2 months and shopped at a grocery store in the past 3 months and have never before tried Stanko brand coffee, behavioral. There is another type of qualifier trait, psychographics, but unless you partner with a firm that specializes in psychographic databases and questions, asking that type of sample qualifier question is probably out of your league. Luckily, the foremost firm in the world is close by. Environics Data's PRISM database is revered worldwide for its savvy in that area. Finally, some sample criteria tips. Tip number 1, don't be vague. Income can be household income, or it can be personal income. What type of income are you referring to? Tip number 2, don't invent age, income, or occupation response options criteria. Most of these can be found via your brand's past studies or secondary databases such as Stats Canada, US Census Bureau, Vividata. Behavior traits are probably hinted at in the brand's previous research studies or in syndicated consumer reports, such as those published by Mintel, MarketLine, Passport, Package Facts, and so on. The added advantage of borrowing brackets rather than inventing your own, now you can compare apples to apples or benchmark your study results. This, for example, might let you find what changed since the last study, or look at that age segment's interest in this concept. Terrific. And the US Census Bureau says there are 12 million Americans in that age bracket altogether. So compile your criteria in a list that is absolutely clear, but also be sure to indicate whether a sample participant must meet any of those criteria or all of those criteria.